Hey, welcome to lesson number 5 on dividing radicals. This is part 2 from lesson number 4, which is dividing radicals part 1. And today we're going to be looking at rationalizing a denominator in binomial form. And yeah, sorry, I already did this example here, and so I kind of started it before I pressed play on the video. So what I was doing, however, was if I'm rationalizing the denominator of a binomial in binomial form, so if I look at the denominator here, square root of 5 minus square root of 3, this is a binomial, right? That means it's made up of two terms. Before we were looking at rationalizing denominators with monomials, where it's only made up of one term. Now, when we are rationalizing the denominator that is a binomial, we multiply it by its conjugate, by a fraction of the conjugate. So what that means is if I have square root of 5 minus square root of 3, I multiply it by square root of 5 plus the square root of 3 on both the numerator and the denominator. The reason I do that is because if I were to multiply it by the square root of 5 minus square root of 3 on both, I'm not going to be getting rid of that middle term, and I'm going to end up with something a little more complicated on my denominator, which I'm not trying to do. I'm trying to make it simple, more simple. So we'll see. I'll show you what I do with this next example. So multiplying by the conjugate here, I would be left with the square root of 6 minus 2. Notice how my denominator is square root of 6 plus 2. So multiply the square root of 6 plus 2. Or sorry, minus 2. You're probably like thoroughly confused. Yeah, minus 2. Okay? So when we're multiplying, remember we go, if we're multiplying our binomials, we have to now FOIL this. Alright, so I'm going to be left with square root 6 times square root 6, which is just 6. Square root 6 minus the square root of 2. So that's going to be negative 2 square root 6. And again, negative 2 square root 6. And negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. On the bottom, however, I'm just going to be left with square root 6 times square root 6, which is 6. And 2 and 2, which is 4. And the reason I'm leaving out the middle term is because, well, I'll do the whole thing for you just so you're not confused. But square root, if I FOIL this, that's square root 6. This is going to be negative 2 square root 6. This will be positive 2 square root 6. And this will be negative 4. So already you can see that this term and this term is going to cancel out on the bottom because they're opposite. However, we're going to add those like terms together on the top. So negative 2 square root 6 and negative 2 square root 6. These are like terms. And so I need to combine those to give me negative 4 square root 6 plus 4. These cancel out, so I'm left with 6 and negative 4 on the bottom. So again, I'm left with like terms. If I combine those, I'll be left with 2. Now, when I combine all my like terms at the end here, I'll use a different highlighter. So like terms, 6, 4, and 2, that becomes square root 6 and 4 is 10 minus 4 root 6 over 2. 2 goes into 10 5 times. That's going to be 5 minus 4 root 6. Alright, so this next one, we're given a variable, so I know that can sometimes be a little daunting, but we approach this the exact same way. So 1 minus square root 6, we multiply by 1 plus square root, x, not 6. And again, 1 plus square root x. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom. And rather than me doing this whole step again, I'm just going to simplify it. If I multiply anything by 1, it's just going to be 1 times square root x. And on the bottom, we end up getting rid of that middle term, so it just becomes 1 minus x. And you know what? We can't simplify this any further, and so that is our final answer. All right, next we want to express square root 8 minus square root 3 times, or divided by square root 4 times square root 3 minus square root 2 with a whole number in the denominator. And so that kind of means that we're going to be rationalizing this by multiplying it by the fraction of the conjugate. So let's start with square root 8 minus square root 3 divided by 4 times the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2. And if we multiply it by the conjugate, that's going to be 4 square root 3 plus square root 2. And 4 square root 3 plus square root 2. All right, so from here, let's expand the statement. So remember, this is what we're multiplying, and we're going to have to FOIL the top. We don't have to FOIL the bottom, really. So if I FOIL the top, I'm going to go my first terms. So square root of 8 times 4 square root 3 is going to give me 4 square root of 24 plus the square root of 16 minus, right, because I got this negative sign here, minus square root of 3 times 4 square root of 3 is going to be minus 4 square root of 9 minus a negative and a positive are negative square root of 6. And on the bottom, all we're left with is 4 and 4 is, so 4 times 4 is 16. 3 and 3 minus 4. Or sorry, minus, that should be in a radical sign, minus 2. So we simplify this even further. 24 we can break into 4. So square root of 4 times square root of 6 plus square root of 16 is 4 minus 4 times 9 is, or square root of 9 is 3, and minus square root of 6 over 16 times 3 is 48 minus 2. So 16 times 3 is 48 and minus 2. So I'm going from here down to here. So 4 times square root of 4 is 4 times 2. So that's just going to be 4 times 2. Square root of 6, that doesn't change, right? So let's put it right there. Plus 4 minus 4 times 3 is minus 12, and minus the square root of 6. So as you may be noticing already, these answers, and 48 minus 2, these answers start getting pretty lengthy. 4 times 2 is 8, square root 6, plus 4 minus 12. We're going to be left with negative 8. So that should be negative 8. Again, pencil's good. And minus square root 6 over 46. So notice how we have the same radicand here. So 8 square root 6 and negative square root 6. So if I combine those, I'll be left with 7 square root 6 minus 8 over 46. And we can leave it as that. All right, so this last one, I'm going to set it up for you, but I'm going to get you to do this on your own. And so I'll be looking for the answer in your notes. So lesson 5. The area of a trapezoid is given by the formula A equals 1/2 times the height times A times A plus B, where A and B are lengths of all the parallel sides, and H is the shortest distance between the sides. If the area of a trapezoid is 20 centimeters squared and the parallel sides are of lengths square root 6 and square root 5, determine the exact value of the distance between the parallel sides. Answer with a rational denominator. And so exact value, that means they want you to be the answer in radical form. All right, so there's a couple ways we could tackle this. First way, it's probably easiest, we're looking for the height, so we want to rearrange for height. All right, so again, determine the exact value of the distance between the parallel sides, and height is the shortest distance between the sides. So what we're doing is we're solving for height. So first thing I'm going to do is let's rearrange this equation so we can solve for height. So let's get h by itself. In order to do that, let's get rid of this 1/2 first. All right, so that's the first thing I'm going to do, get rid of the 1/2. In order to get rid of 1/2, I can divide both sides by 0.5, or I can just multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to do that, multiply both sides by 2. If I do that, it'll cancel out that 1/2, and I'll be left with 2a is equal to h times a plus b. Next thing I want to do, remember, is isolate the h. And so in order to isolate the h, I want to divide both sides by a plus b. Alright, so divide both sides by a plus b. If I divide both by a plus b, I'm going to be left with something like this, where these will cancel out, and 2a divided by a plus b is equal to h. Alright, so now we have our new equation set up. If I plug these in, h is equal to 2a divided by a plus b, and I have all these other variables now. So I have my 2, and my area, I'm told, was, if the area of a trapezoid is 20 centimeters squared, that's 20 centimeters squared. And the side lengths are square root 6 plus square root 5. Determine the exact value between the parallel sides. So the exact value of h. This is what you are trying to solve. Alright, so answer with the rational denominator, and again, I will be checking class example number 3.